Sarah Mitchell pressed her fingers to her temples, feeling the familiar weight of a morning migraine settling behind her eyes. Coffee grew cold in the mug beside her laptop, where the same pixelated image had been blinking for 3 hours, a white and blue RV parked under the yellowish glow of a streetlight, photographed by Nevada State Police in an abandoned lot. 10 years. 10 years since her brother David and her niece Emma, then 8 years old, had set off on a western road trip and simply vanished, as if the desert had swallowed them whole. Sarah's Seattle apartment was immersed in the typical 6 a.m. silence, broken only by the hum of the heater and the distant drone of traffic. She'd woken again to the same nightmare, Emma running toward her down hospital corridors, screaming her name, but always disappearing before she could reach her. The smell of antiseptic and the echo of footsteps on cold linoleum still lingered in her mind, as real as the bitter taste in her mouth. The phone rang, slicing through the silence like a knife. Sarah hesitated before answering, recognizing the Nevada area code. Sarah Mitchell. The voice was gravelly, male, weary. "This is Detective Raymond Torres, Henderson Police Department. Ma'am, we found the RV." The words seemed to hang in the air for a moment before penetrating her consciousness. Sarah felt her heart quicken, her mouth instantly dry. You found them," she whispered, already knowing the answer from the detective's tone. "No, ma'am. The vehicle was empty, but there are a few things we'd like you to examine in person." 3 days later, Sarah stood under the scorching Nevada sun, gazing at the RV that had haunted her dreams for a decade. The paint was faded, the tires flat, one side window cracked in a spiderweb pattern, but it was definitely the same vehicle. She recognized the small crescent moon-shaped scratch on the rear bumper, the result of a minor accident David had years ago. Detective Torres was a short, stocky man with a graying mustache and tired eyes that seemed to have seen too much. He watched her with an expression Sarah couldn't decipher, part compassion, part curiosity. "It's been parked here for at least 6 months, according to the property owner," Torres explained, gesturing to the gravel lot enclosed by barbed wire fencing, an impound lot that closed down 2 years ago. Nobody paid it any mind until last week when they came to demolish the place. Sarah approached slowly, feeling the heat of the metal radiating through her clothes. Her hands trembled as she touched the side door handle. "Can I?" Torres nodded. "We've processed everything. Go ahead." The interior of the RV was a tomb of memories. The smell of mildew and dust couldn't completely mask the ghost of David's cologne, nor the sweet strawberry scent of Emma's shampoo. Sarah swallowed hard, forcing herself to examine each detail with the eyes of an investigator, not a devastated aunt. The small fold-down table was still set, with 2 plastic cups on it, one Mickey Mouse, Emma's favorite, the other with the Seattle Seahawks logo, David's team. A magazine lay open to a crossword puzzle page, with some answers filled in with David's careful script. In the tiny kitchenette, dirty dishes were piled in the sink as if they'd just finished a meal. But it was in the sleeping area that Sarah found something that chilled her to the bone. On Emma's bed, neatly made with the girl's favorite pink blanket, lay a yellowed envelope with her name written in Emma's childish, uncertain scrawl. With trembling fingers, Sarah opened the envelope. Inside, a sheet of stationery decorated with unicorns, and words that seemed to have been written in a rush. "Aunt Sarah, if you're reading this, something bad happened to us. Daddy said to write everything down." The strange man came again. "He knows things about Mommy that Daddy never told. Daddy's scared. I'm scared too. He said we have to go with him, that it's for our own good. Daddy hid more letters in the secret place. Love you, Emma." Sarah felt her legs weaken. Secret place. What strange man? And why did Emma mention her mother? Carol had died of cancer when Emma was only 4. "Detective Torres," she called out, her voice hoarse. "Did you find anything else? Letters, documents?" Torres shook his head. "We processed the entire vehicle, just their clothes, some personal belongings, and that letter you just found." Sarah frantically searched the interior of the RV. Emma's secret place had always been under the mattress, where she hid her childhood treasures. Lifting the mattress of the double bed where David slept, Sarah found a larger envelope, sealed with tape. Inside, Her own handwriting stared back at her, in a letter she didn't even remember writing. David, I don't know how to tell you this in person, so I'm writing. Carol came to me 2 weeks before she died. She was terrified, talking about a man who was following her, who knew things about her past. She said she'd gotten involved with dangerous people before she met you, that she'd done things she regretted. She made me promise that if anything happened to her, I would protect Emma. She said they might come back. I didn't understand at the time. I thought it was the morphine talking. But now, David, I'm scared. Is Emma safe? Please call me as soon as you get this. Sarah. Sarah read the letter 3 times before the words made sense. She vaguely remembered Carol seeming paranoid in the last few days, talking about people watching her, but she'd attributed it to illness and medication. She'd never sent that letter to David. Detective, she said, her voice trembling, I need to know more about my sister-in-law, Carol Mitchell. She died of cancer 6 years ago, but I think there were things about her we didn't know. Torres frowned. What kind of things? Sarah handed him the 2 letters. While he read, she continued to explore the RV, searching for more clues. In one of the cabinets, she found David's laptop, which miraculously still worked with a little battery life remaining. The browsing history revealed a disturbing trail of searches in the days before his disappearance. How to disappear without a trace, witness protection programs, Oregon, Washington religious cults, Temple of Divine Light. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. The Temple of Divine Light had made headlines a few years earlier, a cult that had established itself in the Oregon mountains, accused of money laundering and child abuse. The leader, a man named Gabriel Marsh, had vanished before authorities could apprehend him. Detective Torres, she called, showing him the screen. I think I found something. Torres studied the browsing history, his frown deepening. I'll make some calls, but first there's something I need to show you. He led her out of the RV, to a black SUV parked in the shade. From the trunk, he retrieved a cardboard box. We found this buried about 50 yards from here. Looks like it's been there for years. Inside the box, Sarah found photographs that made her world crumble. Carol, much younger, posing with a group of people dressed in white, in front of a rural property. Beside her, a man with long hair and piercing eyes that Sarah immediately recognized from the news. Gabriel Marsh. There were also documents, birth certificates, passports, all with different names. Carol had been called Catherine Morrison before meeting David, and there was a previous daughter, born in 1995, 5 years before Emma. Sarah felt the world spin. Emma had an older sister no one knew existed. My God, she whispered, her hands trembling. Carol was running from them. That's why she changed her name. That's why she married David and moved to Seattle. She was hiding, and it seems they found her. Torres agreed grimly. The question is, where are her brother and niece now? The next few hours passed in a blur of phone calls and investigations. Torres contacted the FBI, who had kept an open file on the Temple of Divine Light. Sarah learned that the cult had relocated several times in recent years, always one step ahead of the authorities. Their last known location was a remote property in the Idaho mountains. I need to go there, Sarah said, as they sat in the detective's office in Henderson, surrounded by photographs and documents scattered across the desk. Absolutely not. Torres shook his head. It's too dangerous. If they really have your brother and niece, then they need help. Sarah interrupted. Detective, do you have children? Torres nodded reluctantly. Then you understand. Emma is all I have left of my family. David is my younger brother. I can't sit here idly waiting for you guys to find time in your schedule to investigate. She stood up, determined. I'm going to Idaho, with or without your help. Torres sighed deeply. All right, but not alone. I know someone who can help. 2 hours later, Sarah was at a private airport outside Las Vegas, meeting Marcus Reed, a former federal agent who now worked as a security consultant. Reed was tall and lean, with graying hair and scarred hands that hinted at a violent past. His eyes were cold, calculating, but there was something about them that inspired confidence. Torres filled me in, Reed said as he checked the equipment he'd brought. communication gear, cameras, and Sarah preferred not to ask what else was in the black cases. The Temple of Divine Light isn't just a cult, they're involved in human trafficking, money laundering, and worse. Gabriel Marsh is a smart psychopath who convinces people he's their salvation. Sarah felt a knot in her stomach. And you think David and Emma are there? If they're alive, it's likely. The bluntness of Reed's answer hit her like a punch. But Sarah, you need to understand, even if we find them, they might not be the same people you knew. These cults, they destroy people from the inside out. Meanwhile, and here, let me do a quick pause, because I know you guys are eager to find out what happens to Emma and David. If you are enjoying this story, and want more gripping narratives like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. I regularly post stories like this, that will keep you up late at night, trying to figure out each mystery and twist. And trust me, this story still has many surprises in store that you won't want to miss. Continuing, the flight to Idaho was tense and silent. Sarah stared out the window at the mountains, stretching endlessly below, imagining David and Emma somewhere in that vastness. Reed studied maps and aerial photographs of the cult's property, obtained through contacts he refused to identify. The property is roughly 1,000 acres, he explained, pointing to the images. Completely isolated, with only one access road, they have armed guards and sophisticated security systems. We can't just show up and knock on the door. Sarah studied the photos. The property appeared to be a complex of low-lying buildings, arranged around a larger central building, with a tower rising like an ominous beacon in the middle of nowhere. How are we getting in? Reed smiled for the first time since they'd met, but it was a mirthless smile. You're going undercover. The plan was more intricate than Sarah had anticipated. For 3 days, she'd studied the doctrine of the Temple of Divine Light, memorized the phrases and behaviors the recruiters sought, and crafted a convincing backstory of a lost and desperate woman searching for meaning. Reed dropped her 5 miles from the property, on a back road, where she would stage a car breakdown with her rental. She carried a tiny tracker sewn into the hem of her blouse, and a micro camera disguised as a coat button. Remember, Reed said before leaving, don't try to be a hero. Find David and Emma, confirm they're alive, and get out. I'll be monitoring everything, and will call for backup at the right time. Sarah waited an hour before spotting the first cult vehicle, a white van that pulled over when it saw her stranded on the road with her hood up. 2 men got out, both dressed simply and sporting smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Trouble with your car? Asked the taller one, a middle-aged man, with blonde hair, and an unnervingly warm tone of voice. Sarah forced tears to her eyes. I don't know what happened. I was driving down from Seattle. My husband passed away last month, and I just needed to get away, you know? The men exchanged glances. We're sorry for your loss. I'm Brother Thomas, and this is Brother Paul. There's a place not far from here, where you can rest, reflect. People like you, people who are hurting, they always find comfort with us. An hour later, Sarah was inside the Temple of Divine Light complex, and the reality was worse than she'd imagined. The place had a suffocating atmosphere that went beyond the simple functional architecture. There were children in the hallways, but they moved with an unnervingly quiet demeanor, their eyes devoid of any spark of childish joy. Sarah was taken to meet Sister Mary, a middle-aged woman in charge of new recruits. While they talked in what appeared to be an administrative office, Sarah discreetly scanned the room, searching for any sign of David or Emma. You seem like a lost soul, dear, Sister Mary said, offering herbal tea that vaguely smelled of medicine. What brought you to us? Sarah repeated her prepared story, talking about the death of her non-existent husband, the feeling of emptiness, the search for a new purpose in life. Sister Mary listened with a look of false compassion that made Sarah's stomach churn. Master Gabriel has a special gift for healing broken hearts, Sister Mary said. Tonight there's a purification ceremony. Perhaps you'd like to attend? Sarah nodded, knowing she had no choice. Of course, I'm ready for anything that can help me. She was taken to a women's dormitory, where she received simple white clothes and was instructed to rest until nightfall. The room was Spartan, metal bunk beds, bare walls, a single small barred window. There were other women there, all with the same vacant, submissive expressions. Sarah tried to talk to some of them, but they responded in monosyllables, or simply ignored her. One of them, however, a young woman, with short brown hair, whispered to her when the others weren't paying attention, "You shouldn't have come here. He the master, he knows things. He'll make you forget who you are." "What's your name?" Sarah whispered back. The woman hesitated. "Anna. But before I had another name. Before he brought me home." Sarah's heart leaped. Anna. Carol's oldest daughter, the one no one knew existed. She looked to be about 28 now, the right age. "Anna, I might know your family. Your mother, was her name Carol later, or Catherine before?" Anna's eyes widened, a spark of recognition flickering behind the fog of indoctrination. "Mom. She ran away. The master said she was weak, that she abandoned the divine family. She's dead, Anna, 6 years ago. But she had another daughter after you. Emma, you have a sister." The words seemed to shatter something inside Anna. She started to tremble, covering her face with her hands. "Emma, she's here. The master brought her 3 months ago. She and a man, David, I think. They're in the purification chambers." Sarah felt her blood run cold. Purification chambers. That's where the master takes people who resist enlightenment. They don't come out much. That night during the purification ceremony, Sarah saw Gabriel Thorne in person for the first time. He was shorter than he appeared in photographs, but he had a disturbingly magnetic presence. His eyes seemed to see through people, and when he spoke, his voice had a hypnotic quality that made Sarah understand how he managed to control so many people. The ceremony took place in the central building, a circular structure with a domed ceiling, where about 100 people sat in concentric circles around a central platform. Thorne spoke about purification, about leaving behind the corrupt world and embracing the divine light. His words were a mixture of religion, pop psychology, and pure manipulation. Sarah forced herself to appear fascinated, nodding at the right moments, whispering "Amen" when others did. But her eyes continuously scanned the crowd, searching for David and Emma. Then she saw them. David was sitting in the 3rd row, on the left. Sarah almost cried out in relief to see him alive, but the relief quickly turned to horror. Her brother looked like he'd aged 10 years in a few months. He was too thin, his eyes sunken and vacant. Next to him, Emma, the girl Sarah remembered as vibrant and full of life, now seemed a ghost of her former self. She'd grown, of course. She was 18 now, but there was something broken in her posture, the way she kept her head down, the mechanical movements. Sarah had to use all her willpower not to run to them at that moment. Instead, she continued to feign attention to Marcia's sermon, mentally planning how she would reach them. The opportunity came sooner than expected. After the ceremony, as people dispersed for their evening activities, Sarah managed to approach David when he was alone, getting water from a fountain in the hallway. "David," she whispered, lightly touching his arm. He turned, and for a moment, his eyes lit up with recognition. "Sarah, you can't be here. It's dangerous. I came to get you both." "David, everyone's worried. You've been missing for months." David looked nervously around. "We can't live. The master, he says the outside world wants to harm us. He's protecting us." Sarah felt her heart break. "David, this isn't protection, it's imprisonment." "And Emma, how is she?" "Emma's fine. She's undergoing intensive purification. The master says she has a special gift, that she might be one of the chosen ones." "What kind of purification?" David hesitated, and Sarah saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. She has private sessions with the master, for spiritual cleansing, but sometimes she comes back, different, quieter." Sarah felt nauseous. "David, you need to listen to me. Carol didn't die of cancer by accident. She was escaping this cult. She had an older daughter, Anna, who's still out there. Gabriel Thorne isn't a spiritual leader, he's a criminal." "No." David shook his head violently. "The master explained everything. Carol was seduced by evil. She abandoned her divine family. We're correcting that, bringing Emma back to where she belongs." At that moment, two figures approached, Brother Thomas and another man Sarah didn't recognize. "Sister Sarah," Thomas said with a cold smile, "the master would like to speak with you." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, but she maintained her composure. Of course, it would be an honor. She was escorted through corridors she hadn't seen before, downstairs to what seemed like a basement. The air here was colder, heavy with a foul smell of dampness, and something else she preferred not to identify. Gabriel Thorne awaited her in a room that appeared to be his private office. The walls were covered with photographs of cult members, but also with maps, financial documents, and something that made Sarah's stomach churn, surveillance photographs of various people, including some of David and Emma taken months before their disappearance. "Sister Sarah," Thorne said, his voice smooth, or should I say, Sarah Miller. Sarah tried to keep her expression neutral, but she knew she was in trouble. "I don't understand." "Of course you do." Thorne approached, circling her like a predator. "You're David's sister, Emma's aunt, the same Sarah who wrote a letter years ago warning David about us." He picked up a sheet of paper from his desk. It was the letter Sarah had found in the motorhome, but now she could see it bore old crease marks, as if it had been read many times. "David never received your letter, because we intercepted it," Thorne continued. "But it was very useful to us. It showed us exactly who else might be a problem." Sarah felt panic rising, but forced herself to remain calm. "I don't know what you're talking about." Thorne laughed, a humorless sound. "My dear, I know exactly why you're here. I know about your friend Marcus Reed waiting in the mountains. I know about the tracker you're carrying." With a swift move, he grabbed her blouse and ripped off the button where the micro camera was hidden. "We have rather sophisticated equipment here. We detected these devices as soon as you entered the property." Sarah felt the world crumble. If they knew about Reed, if they knew about the plan. "Where are David and Emma?" she asked, abandoning any pretense. "Safe," Thorne replied. "David is undergoing an adjustment period. He still has some conflicting loyalties. But Emma, Emma is special. She has the same gift her mother had." "What gift?" "Catherine was one of our most powerful seers before she betrayed us. Emma inherited that ability. With the right training, she can be a valuable asset to our work." Sarah felt rage boiling inside her. "She's a child. She's an 18-year-old young woman," Thorne corrected coldly, "and she's exactly where she should be." The door opened and Sarah saw Emma enter, escorted by two guards. The young woman seemed to be in a trance, her eyes glazed and distant. She wore a simple white dress and held something in her hands, a small rag doll that Sarah recognized as Emma's favorite toy from childhood. "Emma," Sarah whispered, taking a step toward her niece. Emma looked at her, but there was no recognition in her eyes. Instead, she spoke in a monotone voice. "The master says you came to take us away, but we don't want to go. We're home." Sarah felt tears burning her eyes. "Emma, it's me, Aunt Sarah. Do you remember? We used to bake cookies together. You loved those chocolate chip ones." For a moment, something seemed to flicker in Emma's eyes. She tilted her head, studying Sarah's face. "Sarah, Aunt Sarah, that's right, sweetheart. I came to get you." But the moment of lucidity quickly faded. Emma shook her head violently. "No, the master said outsiders would try to confuse us. You're not real. You're a test." Thorne smiled triumphantly. "As you can see, Emma has made her choice, just as David will, eventually. And if I refuse to leave you alone, then you'll join them in the purification program. We have very effective methods for helping stubborn people find enlightenment." Scene transition. The lights went out. The compound plunged into complete darkness, and Sarah heard screams and running footsteps above. A distant explosion shook the ground. "Reed," she whispered to herself. In the confusion, Sarah acted on instinct, grabbing Emma's arm. "Come on, we need to get out of here." But Emma resisted, shouting, "No, I can't leave the family. The master needs me." Thorne was yelling orders to the guards,
but the darkness and chaos worked in Sarah's favor. She managed to drag Emma down the hallway, where she found David coming down the stairs, looking for them. Sarah, what's happening? Reed's coming to get us. David, we need to leave now. But David hesitated. What about the others? What about our family here? They're not your family. Sarah shouted. I'm your family. Emma is your daughter. David's internal struggle was visible even in the darkness. Sarah could hear Thorne and the guards approaching, their voices echoing through the hallways. David, please, she pleaded. Carol died protecting Emma from these people. Don't let her sacrifice be in vain. Something in those words broke the final barrier. David nodded and helped Sarah carry Emma, who was still resisting and crying. They managed to reach the ground floor, where chaos reigned. Cult members ran in panic, some trying to escape, others looking for Thorne for instructions. Through the windows, Sarah could see the lights of approaching helicopters and vehicles. Reed had kept his word, but escape wasn't guaranteed yet. Thorne appeared at the end of the hallway, accompanied by several armed guards. No one leaves the family, he screamed. If they can't be saved, then they must be purified by fire. Sarah saw in horror that one of the guards was carrying gas cans. They intended to burn down the entire compound with everyone inside. The tunnel, a voice whispered behind her. Sarah turned and saw Anna, now wearing normal clothes instead of the cult's white uniform. There's a tunnel leading out. Mom showed me before she escaped. Anna led them through a hidden door behind a bookshelf in the library. The tunnel,